Hello everyone, this is the long-awaited Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer, fourth in the Southern Reach series of books, which he just came to him one day, he woke up and started writing this book apparently. I finally broke down and read Annihilation this year, and its two sequels. I would consider it seminal, groundbreaking, landmark. Annihilation. If you've seen the movie, it doesn't spoil the book, and if you read the book, it doesn't spoil the movie, and I enjoyed both, of course. Others by Vandermeer. This takes place in a whole other world. Born, I think, is accessible. Like, I wouldn't necessarily call these for everybody, but Born, I think, is. If you have a little sci-fi fandom in you, Born is good. It's kind of vaguely sequel novella there. Strange Bird is also really good. I got Two Dead Astronauts, and I did not finish this one. I did not like this at all. A little too hard to read. Speaking of which. So this starts out really good. If you enjoyed Southern Reach, the first part of this is like a little, here's some Southern Reach stuff for you. Here's people going into this area. This takes place 20 years before the expeditions into Area X begin. And so this is all new to the people going in, some 24 people. It is being narrated by a fellow just simply referred to as Old Jim, and he's reading their journals. And it's nice, it's good. It reels you in a little bit. And you get some little favorites, like the white rabbits show up. They release some alligators into the area and nickname one of them the Tyrant, the other ones die. Tyrant becomes something later on in the books. They're confronted by this strange figure called the Rogue and just starts wiping people out. And he has a role to play later on. There's some little hints of the time travel that Vandermeer has messed with in the previous books. So it's there. Well, there's a great line too. And this is Old Jim looking at the journals. Old Jim, traveler from the future, peering down at the past. That's great, good stuff. So that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is, now we're in the future where Old Jim is, and he is he's being used by Central, that is the governing body. It's supposed to be the CIA, if I recall correctly. I remember it finally being called the CIA. But this is just before the border comes down and they really start calling it Area X, but they haven't taken over the area yet. So he's an agent being placed in to go find out what the hell's going on. He has handlers. As we find out in the previous books, there is brainwashing and hypnotism and these trigger words, and these trigger words can control you, stop you, and in some extreme case kill you. Well, he was in the midst of this conditioning when he had a trauma where he loses his wife in a car crash and his daughter runs away. Maybe. We don't know for sure what the deal with the daughter is, because even though they started training him and he had this happen to him, they still said, well, we're going to keep using him. And so they send him in anyway, under control, and to, as one character puts it, give him a good kickstart. His daughter shows up, but right off the bat, he's like, this can't be my daughter. And she even admits, I'm not really your daughter, but we might as well run with it so you can be useful. And that's basically what happens, and they team up a little bit. The second part, however, because of this conditioning, because he's basically messed up in the head. And so it's almost like sometimes his brain meanders, or he perceives something strangely or just not quite right, and he's worried about this and that, and you get deep down into his introspections, and it's a bit clunky. I just didn't really care for the way it read along, or maybe it was just too long and I could take some of it. There are interesting events that happen in it, but it was getting hard to read. Then there's a part 3. Part 3, it also can be a little difficult to get through, but at the same time, it's a little bit more fun. And I think maybe the second part was just not as fun. And it's mostly because this character, Lowry, who is someone from the previous books, it's all through his head. Now, he is also conditioned or something, and he's all hopped up on drugs, and he's going, and they're gonna send people in. This is the first expedition into Area X, and well, technically the second, but it wasn't called that, of course. So this is the first real. We have a problem. We have to go in there. We got to shut that down. And so Lowry can't stop cursing. He has gone into hyper alpha male mode. He denounces everything in his mind, and once they get going, pretty much out loud. He's all but gone crazy. But there's certain. It's almost though a one-trick pony, and after a few pages, I was like, okay, this is gonna get a little grating. But at the same time, there's just funny parts to this, like, oh no, we're on the run. Well, there's a guy who has his drugs that he takes, and he's like, save the drugs, save the drugs. He likes that he curses, and the drugs make him curse. At one point, he, how did that go? He refers himself to as a bullet that's basically a high velocity truth bomb. And he's just blunt about everything, and you're all stupid, I'm the greatest thing in the world. And when they find out Area X will actually make copies of people, he goes into this full-blown narcissist daydream about a whole bunch of versions of him, and that get out and encircle Area X, and how many can he get, but so long as they just do what he says, and so on. As far as the books go, I wouldn't give it a great big positive review. It's not the worst thing I've read. I don't know how to rate books like this, because like I said, it was difficult to read and kind of get through, but it had these little bits of treasure just sprinkled throughout all of it, and I liked those quite a bit. But it's certainly the least of the 4 books, and I don't know that I needed it, but here it is. I assume that there actually are going to be people who will enjoy this. So subjectively, this is a big thumbs down for me. Objectively, there's probably people who are going to actually really like it. And I have actually seen reviews of it that were non-spoiler reviews that just touted this as one of the best things in the world. So have at it if you are a Vandermeer fan. Back to something I know I'm probably going to enjoy. Going back to Dresden. We are on book 11, Turncoat by Jim Butcher. So I made a mistake in thinking there were only 15 of the primary books and then 2 short story collections. It's actually 17 plus 2 short story collections. Someone has told me that there's actually going to be 22 of these, and then a 3-novel finale, and then a whole other short story collection. So there's going to be a total of 25 of these books plus 3 short story collections. I don't know if I'm going to do the short story collections. I've heard they're a little bit of a mixed bag, but I am on to this one right here. When it comes to the Wizard's White Council, Harry Dresden is thought of as either a black sheep or a sacrificial lamb, and no one holds him in more disdain than Morgan, a veteran warden with a grudge against anyone who bends the rules. But now Morgan is in trouble. He's been accused of cold-blooded murder, a crime with only one final punishment. I did read this in the last video, I think. He's on the run, wanting his name cleared. They need someone with a knack for backing the underdog, so it's up to Harry to uncover a traitor within the council, keep Morgan under wraps, and avoid coming under scrutiny himself, and a single mistake may cost someone his head, like Larry. So when the previous book left off, we had a major character in severe medical trauma from the damage he sustained, and we got to find out what happens there. The previous book ended with Harry being just invited into this family once and for all. So we got to see what happens there. So this can't be just about Morgan. Hopefully he calls upon all these allies again in one form or another. We have to find out what happens what's going on with the archive. Last we left her, she had fallen in battle, but they had rescued her, and she was being tended to by her bodyguard, who was the bodyguard of her grandmother. All kinds of threads that came to a kind of a fruition, but I want to see these characters again and see how they're going to help Harry, or whether they turn up or not. Especially Murphy, she had turned down a divine sword, a whole new life for her. I almost wonder now if she's going to be, because she's already been demoted by the Chicago police because she runs the supernatural version, or the weird version of the police department, and so all the junk gets hurled at her. But she was on Harry's side apparently once too often, and lost her position. She's still in that division, but she's been demoted. So I wonder if it's a matter of time before they just kick her out, or she just becomes so fed up with them and winds up taking the sword anyway. And there's Molly, his apprentice, who's come along just fine, but she's not much of a battle wizard, and on and on and on. So Butcher has laid down a great bunch of storylines and subplots, and can't wait to get to the next one, which I will be starting today forthwith. That's it. Quick one, I think. Thank you very much. Have a lovely week. See you next time. Bye-bye now.